Howdy everyone, Matt here. Let me ask you a question. If I were to ask you, what does the APTA do? Could you actually give me a detailed, deep explanation of it, knowing that the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the backwards and forwards, the left to rights, all about what the APTA does in actual good detail if I were to ask you follow-up questions. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Matt the PT, and I'm coming at you with another video, another topic of something going on in the physical therapy world. Second of all, let me say thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune into the video. Thank you for the likes, the comments, and the subscriptions. And of course, the discussions. I have really just enjoyed that. Had a lot of interesting discussions upon this last video last week. And I will say, people have talked to me about it. Those were my early views about this new association. That's what it was. I've only been interacting in that group for maybe a week or so. That was just the early on viewpoints of it. Things can change. Things can change next week, next month, next year. Things can change over time. It happens with people all the time. You meet somebody, you may think they're a jerk, but in a year, man, we're really good friends. So those things could change over time. But one thing that came out of it, somebody asked me, he said, Matt, what's your opinion about the APTA? You talk all about this. What is your thoughts about the APTA? I said, you know what? Let me talk about that. Let me share that. Let me share that with you. And I am very happy to discuss this. I let people know within the APTA this type of stuff. I'm very willing to talk to them about it because I do find I do have issues. I have issues that go on, and I want to make my voice heard. I will say I don't whine about it to them. I don't complain. I'm not rude or mean or anything with it because think about that. How if you were wanting to give feedback to somebody, or were you wanting somebody to give feedback to you? Do you want them to yell at you and tell them that you're doing this all wrong? And how willing are you to accept that feedback or whatnot? For somebody to just tell you everything that you're doing is wrong and to be aggressive or angry or anything like that. So let me share this first. First off, I have been an APTA member about 10 years now on it, for consistently 10 years. I was a member when I was in school. It fell off because when I started out, then I got back into it. I have served in a variety of different roles in the states that I have lived in because I was just a member for several years, but then I decided one day, I said, you know what? I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm sick of saying we need to be doing this and we need to be doing that. I'm going to step up into some of these roles that they send me these emails about. I'm going to get in them, and I'm going to see if I can create change. And I will say, from that, I learned a whole lot on it, and I'm willing to share that in here now. Now, being a part of the APTA and the different at the state level, I have been able to get a law passed that allowed Mississippi to get the PT licensure compact. So I went through that legislative process on it, and I'll probably do a video about that in the future. I've also gotten a motion passed through the House of Delegates, which was one last year. It was about pay transparency, which people have been upset about. For some reason, I have seen a few comments here and there about it. And I'm like, I'm happy to talk to you about it. If you want to talk about it, I'll tell you the reasoning why I went about it. And I can give you a lot of evidence and stuff that I spent a lot of time researching, I'm going to tell you this. There are like legitimate papers on that stuff. So that's probably one off to the future. I'm not going to go on that divergent there. So I've been involved in it. I am still involved now, and I am very happy to do so. Now, I will say this. I don't believe the APTA is a perfect organization. I don't believe anything is. No business, association, group, or whatnot is perfect. There are issues. There are shortcomings of really anything but that is that big on it. And I have my gripes with it. I have my issues and things like that, and I'll talk about those here right now. First and foremost, I do believe that there is a bit of a disconnection between people who serve in many of the upper leadership roles and the people on the ground treating patients. I do believe that there is a bit of that. One reason then why this could be is that it could be an age difference on it. Because think very often the people who do serve in those roles are older, maybe in their 50s or 60s. I'm not making that sound bad, but they've worked their way up to that position. And so they are, older in age typically, but you have experience. I'm saying you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of connections, you have a lot of stuff that puts you into that role. Compared to people on the front lines, and I'm just going to say front lines as people who are, treating patients day in and day out like that there is, again, that they're possibly in their 20s, 30s, that 30 to 40 year age gap. A lot of stuff is different when they were young, when they were that age versus what is going on now. Of course, the economy is different. The cost of school is different. The way that we treat patients is different. And I will say this, anytime I hear about an older person trying to tell people nowadays how to go get a job or how to buy a house or whatever, I'm like, look, the situation when you were young is completely different than what it is now. And that we need to accept that the way that you did it was the way that you did it. Things are different now. And that you do have to understand what are the struggles with the situation that people are in now. You can't apply those old strategies to things now because they may not work because, again, the technology is different. Everything's different on it. I also think that, again, people very often that once they get up into these roles, they have been out of that patient care for a period of time. That could be either one, they went into academia, and so their teaching, they get away from treating patients more, or you get into these roles and you have to dedicate more time to doing the work for the association or the state or whatnot. So you have to take away from patient care. And so that you may lose touch with what people are doing on those front lines. I mean, I would say that would happen with really any job. A cashier at a retail position that works their way up over years can kind of lose what it's like to be a cashier now. So I worked retail when I was younger, and I do remember that with dealing with store managers, that they would tell you to do this or do that, and it's like, look, they're like, that's different. You were a cashier, 35 years ago. It doesn't really work like that anymore. You had the old knuckle busters. Now they swipe cards and stuff. Like, things are different. Situations are different. So I do think that's an issue that goes on. And I would say really to correct that is that, again, both sides need to understand one another. And I think that is very important. That if you are in the leadership, to understand what is going on with those frontline, what issues and things that they're having, and then the frontline people to understand, hey, this is what's going on at that level, that we have this communication, because ultimately we're on the same team, okay? We're all on the same team. And so we do need to have this understanding. Also, now because of that, I do think the communication is iffy at times. I do feel like sometimes the communication from the APTA to the state level isn't done adequately to let people know what is going on. So what issues that we're dealing, what issues are they dealing with? What are the battles? What are they, like, there's some issue with the communication on it. Now, that could be for any number of reasons. Maybe they're not using the proper channel on it. Maybe we're putting it out in the PT in motion. It's like, well, I'm not even reading that on it, or like, who has time to sit and read it? Maybe they're not putting it, maybe it would be through videos or weekly chats or monthly chat, something. But I do think that sometimes that there is a difference in communication styles. And so maybe we should look at, what is the most optimal way that they can communicate to us to let us know what is going on. This thing, now I'm not saying that any of this is bad. People can probably take this and misconstrue this to the whatever. But I do think sometimes that leadership or people within the APTA put focus on tackling things that aren't super important to the overall profession. And when I say that, I mean in terms of patient care. If we implement this policy or we do this or do that, is it going to end up that patients are going to be better, get better? Are we going to cause a big change in public health? That's how I look at a lot of things that go on. What's the end result in people getting better? So if we institute this, does that mean that the therapists are going to be better, who are therefore going to provide better treatment so people get better? That's how I look with doing anything on it. That if we take care of the therapist, they're going to take care of everyone else out there. And that is what I really want. And so sometimes I do feel that some issue or something comes up and it feels like there more has to be a statement or there has to be something made about, whatever it is. And it's like, but if we pull back for just a moment, let me legitimately ask this question. How is this going to end up with people getting better? And if they're able to answer it to say, hey, it's because of this, hey, cool. I'm on board with it. So that's what I'll say. I don't say things are bad, but I would want clarity and understanding, if you're doing that, making this statement, putting in this work over here, is that ultimately going to end up with better things on the other side? Or is it just something to say, hey, we did this to just appease people on it? Really. And again, I'm not saying anything that is bad. I am very open to it. I want to have a discussion with people about any of those policies and any of the times those things come up. We've talked about it at the state level and then have brought those things up. Say, hey, well, how is this going to benefit the profession and whatnot there? So now, that being said, there are some things about the APTA that I do find are very beneficial that get overlooked many times. First and foremost, the name, the goodwill, the things that the APTA has built, the relationships they have built over time. People talk about the APTA has been around for 100 years. A 100-year head start on this. A 100-year head start. To think about it. That they have that recognition, good or bad, which way you want to think about it, with anything. So they've sent people out to negotiate, for direct access or any of these, getting imaging or being a front, primary care provider or being. The APTA has had that name that's coming. Hey, I'm so and so from the APTA. Hey, I'm representing the APTA. Hey, the people from the APTA are here. They have that recognition that people are like, oh, okay, yeah. You're those people that are coming in. And I'll be honest, if you're coming in as another outside organization with physical therapy, so if you're the Physical Therapy Association of America coming in, you're probably going to be associated with the APTA. Oh, you're the PT people? Yeah, you can get just lumped over with them. And I also think if whomever we dealt with this here in Texas, that we had the head of our state legislative committee, head of the state, whatever it is, government, did not like anything. He was an MD, did not like anything that would challenge anything that MDs did. So it didn't matter what organization or whoever that you were with. He shot it down. He wouldn't hear it. Nothing. It didn't matter. So he didn't want to talk to anybody on it for whatever. So again, you could say, well, APTA didn't do anything. Well, really with that dude, like nobody, like it didn't matter who. He just didn't want to hear any of it on it. No, things have changed. That's something we might talk about in the future. But like I said, they have that background. They have that recognition that going forward on it, so that you're already established. Keep that in mind. Something is established. Okay, we got that. Next, big one. Money. To get any of the stuff that people talk about, direct access, better insurance rates, or whatever, to get a lot of this change requires money. Money gets you so much. Again, going through to get a bill passed in the state of Mississippi required a lot of money on it. And you're thinking, well, who's the money going for? Well, you got to pay for lobbyists. You got to pay for people to write up this stuff. You got to make political donations. It takes a lot of money. And one of the first things that we did was really pushing our PAC to increase the revenue that we had, or the money that we had for our PAC. We did it. We did. So that's honestly, and we had to be upfront with that. It requires money to do so much, and money gets you so much. Tell me what you can't get with money. I know you're probably going to say happiness, but as Daniel Tosh said, you ever frowned on a jet ski? Okay. But really, to get a lot of change, it requires a lot of money. And the APTA has that. Now, people put out stuff. Now, if you want to see, APTA is a nonprofit, so you can access all of their tax information. Last year, they brought in $42 million on that. So, yeah, they have access to a lot of money through the dues and things that they do. They have that. So they can pay for lobbyists. You also utilize that money, which people have complained about, the money that they spent for salaries and stuff like that, roughly half of their income, which is typically labor is your highest cost. If you ever run a business, labor is typically your highest cost. They spent roughly 50% of that on salaries and wages. Yeah, because you have to pay people. You have to be honest with that you are a nonprofit, but you have people in different leadership roles and things like that. You have to pay them. You have to pay them to come in and actually work for you on that. If you pay them jack squat or it's volunteer, people aren't going to do it on that. If I have to work my full-time job and then come in and try to do all this stuff, are you serious on that? And it's just not just like, oh, there's just people that sit in the desk. Yeah, you have an HR department, you have a compliance department, you have an IT department, and you have a legal department. That's the one thing people kind of forget about. That as a nonprofit, and the board impels people making decisions, you have a legal department to understand that what you do is legal or not, to defend the board or whomever against any decisions or anything that gets brought up. Because if you are serving on a board of a nonprofit, you are legally and financially responsible for anything that goes on. Again, the compliance team, the legal team, making sure that you are following the law. It's kind of important. If stuff comes out that they can interpret it. So yeah, you have to pay all of these people on that. So yeah, so you could take like that they have that money available. So why would you want to say, hey, we're going to try to get this from the ground up? Okay, how long is it going to take you to have adequate money to do anything? And you can say, yes, we're going to do it all. We're all going to volunteer. We're going to do that. How long is that honestly going to last? Is everyone volunteering? I've saw people do that, talk about a union. Hey, we're going to do all this work. And somebody brought up, I said, so you think people want to work all day, however long that you work, seeing patients or whatnot, doing all your stuff with your family and the stuff that you like to do. You want to throw trying to tackle these other things unpaid on top of all that? How long is that honestly going to last? Like, how long do you think somebody can really do that when they have these other pressing things that they have to take care of? So yes, I do see that they have that pool of money. Now, so that's some of the biggest things I see about it. Now, a point that was brought up is like, well, we're going to fill in the gaps. I'll ask you this question. You're going to fill in the gaps? What gaps? What are the gaps exactly? And if you identify the gaps, why are there gaps on it? Is it because it's like, hey, there is a roadblock? Like I mentioned, we had a person here in Texas that would not even hear anything from physical. Nope, I'm not doing it. How are you going to do that? How are you going to get around that? It's the head of the state legislature. How are you going to get around that? Okay, you bribe him? That's kind of illegal, but pretty much. How are you going to get around that? Okay, well, there's a block, What if it's like, hey, we don't have anybody that's wanting to take on this position. We don't have anybody who's wanting to take up this fight or this whatever goal or whatever. That's why we have a gap, because nobody can do it. We're spread too thin on it because people, and I will say often in states, What I've experienced is that people have multiple positions on it. So it's like, well, it's kind of hard to take care of this too because I've got 3 other things I got to do. Is that the reason? Or is there, again, somebody in that role who's just overworked? I can't because it's just me. It's me and 2 other people trying to do this. And so that's why there is a gap there on it. So again, saying, oh, a lot of this stuff is already set up there, has a lot of it. Why don't we just fill in that gap and then we go? Now, I'll leave you with this to really think about. Now, I've been involved in different churches over the years. Really what this seems like is that if it's like your average church, don't come in here to be like, well, the mega church is, did I say mega church? I said average church. Mega church. See, this is an issue what people will do when you bring up something is they will like, well, what about this and this and this and this? And they get down to this like super small thing and they'll be like, see, look at this little thing right here. It doesn't work because of this super. It's like, shut up. Okay, whatever. But I'll tell you, average church, this is what happens if you get involved. You have a mass of people that go out there. And of that mass of people that attend, a small percentage of them actually volunteer and do things within the church, volunteer to teach classes or to lead up, different things like that volunteer to do those little things. And so you stretch this little group of people very thin because they're trying to do as much as they can to help their church, their organization, trying to do as much as they can. But it's very, very limited because only so many people actually want to do it. Now, this crazy thing is that out there back in that congregation, there are some of the most vocal people about why the things that you're doing are not right, or we need to do this, or we need to do that. I'll tell you, the ones I've been involved in, you hear it, and it's usually like the same people. You would just hear the stuff from them, and I would say I used to play music in the choir, and people would complain about the songs, and I would ask them all the time, well, we rehearse on Tuesday night. If you would like to come and help us with the arrangement and all that, you please do. We need your help. They never showed up on it. And I would say, and I would be brutally honest, like, so you're going to complain about it, but you don't want to make any change about it? Okay. Now, I will say, again, this thing happens as well, that often there are people that try to get up into a leadership role or something in there, and they get mad. They get mad at somebody, something happens some way, somehow, or whatever, and some people get mad and they leave. Just happens as well, okay? I've run into that. People come into a role, do something makes them mad and leave. Oftentimes what happens is the person did actually decide to step up. And I know I said no, they never do. I've never seen them, but it was somebody that got in here. They get their opinion of, we need to do like this and then this, and they get told, okay, no, because we have this and this and that. And they get all butthurt and they just, I'm going to leave me. And you just find out like they're just whiny britches. Like that's really all it was. And it was like, look, we gave you these other options and stuff like that, or we told you why, and you just wanted to go like this. So that being said, I will put that, and I will end with this. Really think about this. And I want to hear your thoughts and opinions and things like that. With the APTA, what if, because only like 20-30% of all PTAs are actual members of the APTA. It's not a huge number, but honestly, membership in professional organizations is usually not very high anyway. If you look that up, I believe it was maybe 30% or something. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong on that. I know there's some that you have to be association, but I'm saying you're voluntarily. There's just not a big, reason why people just don't join. There's not a lot of people. So it's pretty universal from what I've looked up. But let's say this. What if everybody said, you know what? I'm going to join up and I'm going to say, hey, what can I do to help? Think about it. 600,000 PT and PTAs out there. And if you got 80-90% of them that joined up, and I'm not saying like, I'm going to join for 6 months and try to do all this. Like, no, it takes time. The wheels of getting all this stuff takes time. So 3-5 years or whatnot, saying, hey, I'm going to put an effort. I'm going to go, hey, what do you need me to do? What is my way that I can put my hand on the rope to pull or to put on there and to push in my way? And if we have this mass of people, If we got, again, out of 600,000, we get 500,000 or 400,000 PTs that get involved to say, hey, what can I do to help? And we get this massive movement and this massive, that everyone says, hey, I will take a little bit of the work. What could possibly happen? Honestly, what could possibly happen out of that if we did that? Again, I would love to hear your opinions on all this. Let me know your thoughts, your beliefs, or what on anything I said. Drop them down here below. So I want to hear about that. Let me know about that, okay? I may be totally wrong, but this was all based on my experience. This is what I've seen and what I believe, and I will talk about this with anybody. And you can be upset and mad all you want. That's cool. That's your opinion. These were mine. These were mine. You can be all upset all you want. That's it. Cool. It's a free country. You can go be upset. I don't care. But if you like the video, hit that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button as well so you keep up to date with all these videos and the goofiness that I try to do to entertain all of y'all wonderful PTs and PTAs and professionals and everyone out there. So with that being said, take care of yourself, take care of your patients, and we'll see you next time.